Hello, this is Ms. DB, and in this video I am going to go over how to do the alternate worksheet on Chapter 6, Section 5. This is on solving linear inequalities. So if you want, you can do the regular assignment using Sketchpad and graphing the inequalities at Sketchpad, and the other option is to do this worksheet here. So on this worksheet, the first thing we start with is example 1, identifying solutions of inequalities. So there's an example here, well, two examples, where you take the x value and put it in here for x, and you take the y value of the coordinate and put it in for y, and then you see if you get a true solution. In this first example, since y is 3 and x is 7, when they replaced x and y in the inequality, they got 3 is less than 6. Well, that's true. 3 is less than 6. So then that you would say, yes, that's a solution if you were doing this problem. And then in B, they plugged in 4 for x and 5 for y. And they got 5 is greater than 14. But 5 is not greater than 14. So you would say no for one like this. And 1, 2, and 3 are exactly the same as these two with different inequalities and different coordinates. But you'll do the same thing. Now the next section is how you will look at the solutions of an inequality. The solutions of an inequality is a shaded region of the graph. It's not just a number or a coordinate. So you need to know, you're going to first have a line, a boundary line. If it is greater than or equal or less than or equal, it's a solid line. If it's less than or greater than, it's a dashed line. If it's y is greater than or y is greater than or equal, then you shade above the line. If it is y is less than or y is less than or equal, you shade below the line. Now, in Sketchpad, you have to have the y first before you can graph the boundary line. It has to be like y is less than or y is greater than or y is equal in order to graph in Sketchpad. But in Desmos, you can graph even if it's not yet solve for y. So you could have y plus x is less than 2, and Desmos will graph that for you. You don't necessarily have to solve this for y. I could subtract x from both sides, and that would be y is less than negative x plus 2, and it's the same exact thing, so you can, but you don't have to. This is enough to graph inequalities in Desmos. So this next three problems, 4, 5, and 6, you are just to decide where to shade. So y is greater than 5x plus 7. They've already got the boundary line on here. Now I think that I should be shading above. If I'm not sure, I can check that in Desmos. I can graph y is greater than, just use the greater than sign, or you can use on the keypad, they have greater than, and they have greater than or equal, and they have less than and less than or equal. And then I type in the 5x plus 7, and yes, I am supposed to shade above. Now, you could take a screenshot of this, a snip. I had my snipping tool ready. Here it is. And you could take a snip of this graph. And where's my copy? And you might have your own way of doing this. And then I could paste it in here. I bet this is going to really mess up my worksheet when I paste this, because it's formatted to be those three problems across. But let me see if I can get it in here. So it's pretty big, but yeah, there it is. So you could do that if you wanted. You can also, remember, in Desmos, you can share your graphs. You can get a link to your graph. So you could put that in your worksheet for number 4. Yeah, that did mess that up, didn't it? I'm just going to make a new line here and put it down below it. There's the graph for number 4, and I can see it that way. Or it might be easy in this one to just go ahead and let's see, I have touchscreen, so I could scribble lines there. I'm going to insert a shape, and I will get I think this is like, you can just draw a line. Yep, So I just got a freehand pencil tool from there, from Insert Shapes, and I can show that this is the part I want shaded. So you can do that. So you decide, oh, that's interesting. You decide which method you want to use to show me the shading, but there's lots of options. It shouldn't be too difficult. You just got to pick the one that works for you. And you'll do the same thing with 5 and 6. Now in 6 it says x is greater than 3. Well, x is greater than 3. Let's look at that one on Desmos. Come on. Let me delete some of these other ones here. And Desmos can graph this too. Desmos can do a lot of stuff. Look at it. You just shade to the right of the vertical line, which is x equals 3. You shade to the right of that line, not including that line. All right, then the next section, I'm going to delete this graph because it's going to mess up my formatting here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and solve these. Now, if you were solving them in Sketchpad, you would have to do step 1, solve the inequality for y. You don't have to do that in Desmos. Then step 2 is to graph the boundary line. So you would graph this solid line here, and then you decide which line to shade. Now this is all done in Desmos rather quickly. You just need to type in the inequalities exactly as they are, and then you need to find a way to share that graph with me. There's lots of ways. You can take a screenshot of it. Remember, the greater than or equal tool is right here, or symbol, and 0. So that's what I need to see. You need to get this graph either on the worksheet by taking a screenshot of it or a snip of it, or by going to Share Graph and putting the link in here. And you have to do that for 7, 8, 9, and 10.